welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, and on today's episode we are very, very excited to have Peter F. Hamilton here in person to talk about his new book, Exodus. Hi Peter, how's it going?
It's going fine, thank you for having me.
Good. We were saying before the last time was virtual via Zoom during lockdown.
It was, yeah.
So
it was myself and Steve Baxter.
Yes. And it's just nice to have actual events in person now and signings and stuff. So yeah, definitely. So this is a really exciting and a little bit different project. So how did this come about?
How did that come about? Well, we should say it's I hate using the word, but there's no other one. It's a tie-in with a game, which has yet to be released, but it's not a novelisation of the game.
Yes, I think that seems to be the thing that may have thrown.
Yes, it does. It's a novel set in the game universe.
Yes.
But I also helped create the universe.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning. I got an email from my American editor, and it was basically said Archetype Entertainment, which is a brand new studio, which was formed to make this game, this Exodus game, which is a space opera game. And would I help do the world building? And if there's one thing I can do, it's world building.
Oh, absolutely.
And if the answer was yes, would I like to write a novel in that? And I sort of thought about it a little while, and the phrase that sort of tipped the balance was, we just want you to do you. in whatever you want to write, as long as it's set in that universe, with those sort of restrictions, again is the wrong word to use, but keeping the continuity of that universe intact, then that would be fine. So I said yes, because I have to do new stuff every now and then. I've written quite a few series. I think this is my 31st book.
That's crazy, yeah.
But I don't want to be the guy who's written 31 books in the same universe.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why I'll do a trilogy, or I think the Commonwealth is 7 books, and there's some standalones, whatever. So I always want to move on to something new. And this was a new way of doing things. So I thought, with everything else as well, that I can help build the universe. I can write what I like in it. Yes, tick.
I mean, why not? And did you find as well, because it's not a game novelisation, that you had much more freedom than you would if obviously you were
would imagine it. So yeah, it's set, we think, from looking at the timeline, I should sound more positive about this, it's about 150 years after the game, and in the next solar system over.
Okay.
But you get a few references to names in the book. This is basically introducing the universe to potential game players. That's what it is, but as I say, it's a different story than the game you're playing.
And this is set quite significantly in the future, so that is
40,000 years in the future, so no confusion there at all. It's the future.
Yeah, we're being very optimistic that hopefully we're still around in 40,000 years. But yeah, is that kind of the furthest you've had to think ahead?
I think so. The Salvation books were set, I think they finished up at least 15,000 years in the future, but yes, this is certainly a long way. It's not my usual distance from now. The first books I wrote were set, and this was published in the 90s, was set 40 years in the future.
Yes.
That's now 10. That's worrying me.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Is it going to be like the whole Back to the Future thing where everyone thought they were going to have hoverboards
yes.
now and we don't?
Yes.
Did you find it kind of more of a challenge working that far ahead as well? Because anything could be possible.
Well,
was it hard to rein in?
No, because we spent, I don't know what it was, 9 months, a year or something, just designing this world. They sent me a rough blueprint of what they wanted, with sort of a few essentials, like there's no fast and light travel.
Okay.
There's no real AI, but then they went way out on a limb on some stuff. How there's a lot of post-humans there called Celestials. So there was sort of those very basic parameters, and then that was the skeleton, and I put the flesh on, put a lot of the flesh on this this outline. So when it came to writing, they were as good as they were. There was no interference. So the first time they saw it was when I handed that bang on the desk. So yeah, it was a nice way of working. The other great thing, which is new to me, is I would write an outline for a planet or a species or something, and then a few weeks later I get the most magnificent artwork back.
Oh yes.
And of course these are really top flight artists, so there'd be improvements to what I described. So I'd taken those put them in the book, and yeah, that was me did that.
There's something about artwork, and I'm sure you've obviously had it for other books, but obviously it's a little bit different with this one. But when you see fan art or artwork that goes along, it just kind of brings it all to life.
There's quite a bit of fan work out there if you know where to look for it, and some of it is brilliant. Some of it I struggle to place with what I thought I wrote. Clearly, there's a lot of different interpretations going on there.
So we obviously have to touch on as well. I love that there's the fact that there's queendoms, and that there seems to be like a more kind of equal, if not a good footing for women in this universe.
Yeah.
Was that an important kind of thing to have?
To a degree, yes. I mean, 40,000 years in the future, you'd hope that everything is equaled out finally. Plus, yeah, you're right about they are called queens. It's kind of narrative shorthand, if you like. You say queen and everyone knows what it is, but I could make up an alternative name for leader, but then I have to go and explain it, and this is quite big enough. We don't need to go into explaining titles in it. So that's why that is used. It's the same thing of does everybody speak English?
Yes.
Do you go into how the translator works, and are they applying it each time they meet somebody new and all this, which is kind of implied rather than we're going into details like the Babel fish.
Yes.
So again, it's big enough.
Yes.
We don't need that.
And obviously you touched on before the gaming team, so the archetype team. And I was reading up on. There's some amazing.
There's some talent there, isn't there? Yes. Yes. James Olhan has basically put it together, and turns out he was quite a fan of mine, which is incredibly flattering. Yes. No. And they were. He and I sort of clicked on Zoom because a lot of this was done during lockdown. I finally got out to the studio last year, which was great. But yes, I mean it was. Not only are they good, they're incredibly professional, which is wonderful to work with. And they were as good as their word. They really didn't sort of say, oh no, you can't do this and you can't do that. Because I knew the world, you see. If I'm going to somewhere, there's a lot of voyages to other worlds to pick things up and find stuff. And that's all new, and none of that is in the game. So when it comes to creating somewhere new that I needed, I know what the parameters are. I know what I can and can't do within the confines of this universe. So no, there was no sort of phone calls desperately asking, "Can I put this in?" It just straight. I just wrote it like a normal book.
Shock. So we also have to mention, obviously, the amazing main character. You kind of had that almost kind of like a coming of age type. The character of Finn, who's kind of he is an interesting guy who thinks he's always doing the right thing and isn't, which is kind of a classic character really. But he starts off he's one of humanity's aristocrats, but it's a stifling job. If you get born into that sort of aristocratic, you've got to look after the estate, or in this case, basically administer a world. It's a hereditary thing, and there is no escape for him. You will get married, you will have children, but your elder sister will take over. In actual fact, so he rebels against this, and in the book, most of the humans that make it to this cluster of stars where the action is sat are not welcome there because of the post-humans regard us as complete lowlife. So
there's a subset of these people who are called travelers who cobble together starships out of basic wreckage and go off and try and find the technology that the Celestials are denying us and all this. And he thinks that's it, that's the way to go. And will do anything to become one of these travelers. And although he doesn't know it, he basically signs away his soul to the devil. he's really taken in. He's too naive to be doing that, and sort of blunders along in his own happy way until he finally realizes what he's done.
He is such an interesting character. I really did enjoy reading Finn's point of view. So within the book, there are kind of just almost kind of books within books. Like there are parts kind of almost police procedural. There's kind of a obviously the political like machinations of various people. You have even like echoes of things like the Hunger Games and stuff, like with the trials and with the kind of that competitive nature. So yeah, how did you manage to kind of cram all that into
a lot of notes is my answer. No, seriously, I mean, like I say, it took me about a year or so to create this universe. Then I had to decide what I wanted to tell, what kind of story I wanted to tell. And very serendipitously, we discovered for real an exoplanet called an iron exotic, which is a real thing. It's a huge gas giant that orbits so close to a star, it's so hot that it rains iron. And that's sort of because I read, constantly looking through science reports and whatever for interesting stuff. Oh yeah, I can use that. So they believe that they can harvest this rain, which makes much cheaper than digging mines in the planet. So that when that happens, that will knock the system's economy. And so it's that kind of thing coming in, which allows me to build a story together and say, okay, where's that going to go in the book, and which character is going to deal with that, and then when I've got all that sorted out, I start writing the chapter outlines. So I do work out individual character arcs, and then, as I say, combine them into these overall notes, which are chapter outlines.
And does anything kind of, I suppose, ever surprise you? I.e., you have a character who this is going to be their arc, and then it gets to a certain point, and you're just like, oh, hang on.
Yes, frequently, because I claim it's all beautifully worked out in chapter outlines. I sort of get halfway through the book, and then I've got to rewrite the end chapter outlines because I've added so much stuff.
I can imagine the Bible to like go along with this universe is
substantial. It is, yes.
So of all the kind of like the ideas in here, as obviously as well as your kind of huge back catalogue, is there any kind of idea that you would love to be fact? Like I was just thinking of things like the Livestone in here. It's just quite interesting.
The Livestone is the one thing I would like to visit would be King's Nest. Which it's not a spoiler. This is a shell of crystal, transparent crystal, the size of a gas giant, which is pumped full of an atmosphere, a breathable atmosphere, and of course there's no gravity in there because there is no central core. So people live in this world, and there are basically flying trees, there are birds, whatever the livestock is, birds. Deep inside there are sort of little moon-like oceans, and you fly around inside it on what's almost sort of 18th century sailing ships. Who wouldn't want to do that? Exactly. And you could travel for your entire life and you'd never reach the other side. It's just I was really pleased with that one. I came up with that.
It's just a fascinating universe. I was reading this, and I was reading at the same time I've been rereading Mortal Engines because the wonderful Philip Reeve is going to be at Comic-Con. And I was just like, these weirdly kind of speak to each other in ways, because you have the kind of, the travelling. So in Mortal Engines, you have a kind of future world where all the cities have eaten up other cities, and so obviously they're all flying in the sky, and you just have this kind of element of not quite being tethered to anything, which I thought was quite interesting.
And of course, the other thing about this is one of the fundamentals of the universe, which the game people sort of came up with to start with, is the no faster than light travel, which means you've got relativistic travel, which means time dilation, which roughly, if you've got a couple of stars 2 light years apart and you're traveling at just below light speed, to you or I on a planet it would take 2 years to get there, but when you're in the ship it seems like 2 weeks. So, and this is illustrated in the book by Finn and his twin sister, because the book takes place over 40 years. So Finn sort of flies off at the beginning of this, and by the time they meet up again, because she's stayed in one place, she's 40 years older than he is, of his twin. Which sort of gives you an idea, and there's sort of various timelines going on here, which was I had to do a lot of hard thinking and working out of who's going to meet who when, which adds a layer of complexity, which hopefully is an easy read, but it wasn't an easy write. Would you say this has potentially been your kind of most challenging kind of work so far? From what point of view? From just, I suppose that with your kind of other novels, and say if you're writing in like a set universe, as you kind of say, if you progress in like 5 or 7 books, then there are certain rules that you've made, and you kind of fit the story into that. In that case, I'm going to say no. Because continuity is a thing I really try and get right. If a spaceship can do something in chapter 1, that it can't do something completely different in chapter 20. It's got to be consistent throughout. So given the amount of note making and preparation I do, that is maintained the whole time. So the writing process was the same, but it was a little trickier to do the timelines. Yes. But that's in the preparation stage. So once you've got all the hard work out of the way, then you just get on and write it. You just make it sound so easy. Yeah, I wish. So the obviously there's going to be a second book next year. Helium Sea. The Helium Sea. Exodus, the Helium Sea. It's fine. Like I say, I know how it's going to end because I knew that before I wrote chapter 1 in here. I'm fairly well through it. I think it's going to be on time. Yeah, don't hold me to that. No. But I think it is. Is it going to be as chunky as? It will be in the region of. It will be size adjacent. It'll be right. Yeah. Fair. Okay. I always I enjoy a good chunky book, but when on the commute and stuff, you're just I'm bringing a separate bag. This lives in a separate bag, and everything else goes in the other bag. But we'll make it work. And to finish off our interview today, so I always like to find out what our authors who come and visit are. What are they currently reading? What are you watching? And if you game, what are you playing? I'm not playing games at the moment for obvious reasons. I don't want to be influenced or affected by them. I just finished on the train ride down. On the train ride up, because I've been on tour, I read Hopeland by Ian MacDonald, and on the train ride down, I just finished The Left-Handed Booksellers by Garth Nix, which was great. Ian's put me through an emotional mangle, which he always does, damn it. But yeah, so those are my 2. And the one we finished, and me and my wife have just finished watching, and we deliberately refused to watch more than one a night, was Chaos. Oh, I still need to watch that. Jeff Goldblum in that is quite something. Okay. I need to. Yeah. I was like, I don't know, I think that looks amazing. I think there's certain things that have been on recently I've been a little bit disappointed with. So the one before that I kind of recommend is Dark Matter. Oh yes, okay, yes, I loved the book. So that's another recently binged. Okay. We'll get on to some TV viewing after convention season now. But yes, so for anyone watching at home, there's going to be signed copies of Exodus, and actually all of Peter's backlist is waiting in our London store for you to sign. So there's a ton of stuff. So check out our website very soon, or head to any one of our stores and you'll be able to grab some signed copies there. But we will see you next time. Bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.